Hello everybody, welcome to Law Made Simple and Comprehensive. I want us to quickly tackle the fifth assignment of SJD1501. After this, I want to do the IRM portfolio recording, but on that portfolio, I only answered 4 questions, which is question 2 to 5, I haven't answered the first question, which is a case summary, because I haven't had time to read through the whole case, because that case has like 84 pages and the portfolio only came out yesterday, so I was busy answering the other questions. So hopefully by next week, Friday or so, I will have finished reading the case and also finished summarizing the case as well. So I just hope that I'll be able to do the recording of that question only. For now, I'll only do the other 4 questions of the IRM 1501 portfolio. All right. This assignment is about how COVID-19 affected us and the criminal justice system as a whole. First question: COVID-19 has affected the lives of individuals all around the globe. The criminal justice system is an area that has seen a significant impact. Every point of the system has been touched by this virus, and countries all over the world has taken a variety of actions to address the risks. These changes have been undertaken to protect everyone who touches the justice system, whether they are justice-involved individuals or those who work in the justice system. In particular, most countries have tried to reduce involvement with the justice system and limit person-to-person interactions, whether with law enforcement, in court, or in corrections. Coronavirus has affected every part of the justice system, and the individuals responsible for the system have had to take steps to respond to this impact. To what extent do you think the criminal justice system response to the pandemic has had an impact on the provision of public safety? Here you must look at the crime rates during the pandemic and measures introduced during the pandemic, such as curfews and the ban of alcohol. This is an interesting question because all of us have experienced the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic and the lockdown as well. So here you are going to talk about all the things that you experienced. There is no need to plagiarize on what I am going to say, because you have your own personal experience as well, and you might also have experienced the COVID-19 as a virus as well. So we are going to talk about everything that happened during that period and how the justice system responded to those impacts and the regulations, the rules and regulations that were invoked by the government during that period. So here we are going to talk about the police, the courts, which is the judiciary, and we are also going to talk about the corrections. The corrections is the prisons, and we are also going to look at the crimes that took place during that time and how everything and everyone was affected during that period of time. This is what this question really want us to discuss actually. And we're also going to have to talk about the deployment of the South African Army Defense Force. Yeah, because you remember they were deployed. Those people, they even went to villages, they went everywhere. Hey, this can't. So you are going to remember that it was 20 of March when the country was declared under emergency state, where we where lockdown was invoked. Yeah. So during that lockdown period, the act that was used there, or the act that the government invoked, was the State of Emergency Act 64 of 1997. We also have this state of emergency on our 1996 South African Constitution. It's section 37 of the Constitution, subsection 1 reads, a state of emergency may be declared only in terms of an act of parliament, and only when the life of the nation is threatened by war, invasion, general insurrection, disorder, natural disaster, or other public emergency. So this is why I am referring to the state of emergency, or this 1997 act, because our state was under a disaster and it was an emergency. You remember that? So yeah, that's why I'm talking about this. Then back to our question. So during that time, the government had to invoke temporary emergency rules and regulations, and they made up many rules. You remember that you could not go into public places with kids. Kids were restricted from going into the malls, into shops, and all those kind of things for a certain period of time. I just don't remember when, but I remember that there was a period where I could not go to town with my son. I had to leave him behind. So you had to always wear a mask wherever you were in a crowded area, or wherever we entered shops, or whether we were in malls, or wherever you were in public, you had to use a mask to prevent the spread of the virus. And also we had curfews. There were certain times that people were not allowed into the streets. I don't remember the time because I'm always indoors most of the cases, so I just don't recall what time. It was 10 p.m. or something that people were not allowed into the streets or something like that. I just don't recall, you guys. And also we had a limited number of gatherings, which was 50 people or members were allowed into funerals or any other kind of gathering that there was. The churches were closed, all those kind of protocols that we had. And what else? The ban of alcohol. Remember, you could not purchase alcohol during the weekends. I think you could only purchase alcohol from Monday to Thursday. I don't know the time, but yeah, during those periods. So those kind of things that you can even think of and that you can even remember, because I did not write them down. I am just speaking out of mind, you know. So those are the things that you need to talk about, and also include the crimes that we faced during this period. You need to think of corruption. You need to think of gender-based violence during the lockdown period, if I can put it that way. But here they're not specifically talking about that period alone, but this, myself, I'm talking about me now, I'm referring to myself. During that time there were many cases reported and all those kind of things, so that's why I would like to dwell much on it, because that's where there are a lot of points to discuss, and that's where we're going to get a lot of marks from. So during that time, there was a lot of corruption because we had the ban of alcohol, ban of cigarettes, and the police themselves, they were corrupt. These bottle store owners, tavern owners, or whoever had access to alcohol, they were selling the alcohol in their houses, and they sold that alcohol for, I don't know, they doubled the price or they tripled the price or something like that. They were making a lot of money from all that. Even the police, they would seize the cigarettes, the alcohol, and go to a different area and sell that alcohol to, I don't know, tavern owners, or I don't know, but there was a lot of corruption that was going on then, by then I mean, and there were just a lot of cases that were reported during that time of corruption. So you can use that to your advantage to add to your points. Here you can also talk about you can also just mention section 21 of the Constitution, which talks about the freedom of movement and residence. Remember that time we were restricted from moving around. When you were in Gauteng, you could not move to another province, whether it's Limpopo, Eastern Cape, Mpumalanga, or wherever. You could not even leave the country. Borders were closed. Remember, the Mozambicans, the Zimbabweans, or anyone who was here could not leave the country because borders were closed by that time. But this subsection 1 of this section here, section 21, says that everyone has the right to freedom of movement. Subsection 2 says everyone has the right to leave the republic. Subsection 3 says every citizen has the right to enter, to remain in, and to reside anywhere in the republic. But by that time, this section was, what's the right word to use? It's what? There's this word that I'm supposed to use. Limitation what? Huh? Limitation clause. No. Oh guys, but it says something to do with the limitation clause, but I just don't remember the correct word that I'm supposed to use here. But we were restricted from doing all these things here. You could not leave the country, you could not come into the country, you could not move around freely. So the country was declared under a emergency state by that time. So these are the things that you need to talk about. And also the criminal justice system had to adjust to many situations and many changes that were made, and they had to adhere to many rules and regulations of the COVID-19 as well. So now we get to how the police and how the South African Defense Force, the army, responded, because this is the criminal justice system. You know that I always say this in these videos. The criminal justice system is the police, the NPA, the courts, the corrections. But the NPA falls under the courts, but they are their own organization, if I can put it that way. But they fall under the courts because their duty is to prosecute. So you cannot prosecute me on the streets, on the streets. Which is in or on, whatever. As long as if you understand what I'm trying to say. Okay. The police were the ones who, okay, both the police and the military. The military is the SA, the South African Army Defense Force, the military, were the ones who were responsible for the curfews. The curfews we're talking about, the times. They were the ones who were responsible for maybe checking out how we, okay, if we adhered to the rules and regulations, like not purchasing or not going to maybe spend time in the taverns, in the drinking areas. They also made sure that we do not linger around in the streets unnecessarily. So they really did a good job by that, but somehow they were abusing their power. So we can say that the police officials responded positively and both negatively to the regulations of COVID-19, if I can put it that way, because okay, let's start here. First of all, whenever a police official tested positive of the virus, that particular police station had to be closed and it had to be disinfected, and all those protocols were followed. They were being adhered to. So we give them a hand on that. That is a positive response. But then again, it also had a bad impact when they followed that, because we could not report crimes. Let's say the police station in your area is closed due to disinfecting the area and all that. Where are you going to report the crime that you encountered, or any other thing that there are many things that we do at police stations. So we could not do many things because that particular police station was closed. And also, you can mention that street crimes, if I can put it that way. I don't know what they're called, but you understand where I'm going with this. Street crimes were reduced. Here I am talking about street gangs, which are in drug commodity. They were disrupted, and hijackings as well were also reduced in a greater percentage, because people could not linger the streets around. The streets unnecessarily. So people were restricted from lingering around, and that is a positive one. So in the case of alcohol ban, that many, what can I say? Maybe many violent crimes or incidents happen during weekends in alcohol selling premises, if I can put it that way. That people fight there, they break bottles on other people's heads and all those kind of things. So during that time, all those kind of crimes or incidents were reduced, which is a positive impact, because you could not groove was restricted during that time. So all the incidents, all the violence, all the crimes that occur in those premises were reduced because you could not groove. So that is a positive one as well. But remember, the corruption that I spoke about on the first, when I first started this recording. So you can also add that to this. But then again, you need to also talk about the abuse of power. What do they call it? What's this again? It's authority what? I don't know. I don't remember. But here I want to discuss how the military and how the police officials abused their power. Those people bullied us. Those people assaulted us. Those people killed us during that time. You know that when they found you in the streets, they would trap you hot. They would make you do push-ups. They would just abuse you. Do you remember that? Do you remember the case of Collins Koza? Is it Collins Koza? Yeah, I think it's Collins Koza. Am I lying? Yeah. The guy who was assaulted while he was in his yard. The guy, it was reported that the guy was relaxing, having his drinks. At the front of his house, but inside his house, in his own yard, I mean, not house, inside his yard. He was not outside the gate or anything like that. He was in the yard. He was having his beers there, relaxed, all chilled. And it happened that police officials and the military were passing by. They noticed that he was enjoying himself, having a beer. They approached him. They asked him why was he consuming alcohol, while he knows that alcohol consuming was banned during that time. He responded that he was in his yard, according to his life partner, Miss Nomsa Mancha, I don't know, but something like that. I'm sorry for my pronunciation. They got inside the premises. They started assaulting him until he passed out or something like that. Then I think he later died. I don't know if he was declared dead in his yard or he later passed on in hospital. But that's where he was assaulted. His life was taken away from him by our officials, which was a very bad thing, because he was in his yard, he was in his house, he was not spreading the virus onto anyone. You know, guys, I can buy my case. Hey, I can buy my black label case here and put it under the bed or put it somewhere. Just store the alcohol, and when it's time for me to relax or anything like that, I pull out my beers. I am enjoying myself. It's not like, maybe we don't know what really happened. Maybe he bought those beers during that time which alcohol was restricted, or maybe he had the alcohol already available in his house. We don't know that. So the police and the military really failed to handle that situation. It was so unnecessary of them to even approach him for that matter, because he was not spreading the virus onto anybody. He was relaxed in his own yard. So they really failed to use I don't know, use their power accordingly, if I can put it that way. And they also slapped and punched his, I think it's his neighbor. yeah, I think it was his neighbor, Mr. Tebuho Mutabela, yeah, and Glenda Paladi, who were recording. They took a footage, they took a recording of what was happening. They trapped them as well. I don't know if they broke their phones or something, but they confiscated. Huh? What's that word? They confiscated their phones, their mobile phones, saying that they had to delete that footage. And they also forced them into their vehicles. Guys, it was so bad. Hey, it was so bad. They were punched, they were slapped. Everything was just so bad. They were dumped in the streets because they drove few hours away from Alex. No, they drove few kilometers away from Alex, and they dumped them on the roads, into the bushes. Their phones were thrown away. Guys, hey, this was a clear abuse of state power. I don't want to lie. This was really bad. It was bad, honestly. It was actually heartbreaking to listen to and to watch on the news, because there were many cases which were reported which are similar to what I am really talking about right now. So you guys can look up those cases on the internet, do some research, and also talk about them here on your assignment 5. You do not have to talk about what I am talking about here. Just talk about your own stuff. I'm just giving you a clue on what you can talk about, because 500 words are a lot of words, so you need to talk about everything that really happened then. So now we're going to go to the courts, the judiciary. The first point that you can talk about here, remember that you don't know. Back then, before 2020, before this whole online thing started, we were supposed to do a court observation on the SJD1501 module. We did all those calculations, answered those questions there, which was section 1, and section B was a court observation, where you were required to visit a court. You would sit with the magistrate, with the judge, with whoever there, or you could sit with the audience, but where you could hear everything and take notes of what is going on in that particular room. You would record what was the case about, who was the name of the judge or whoever the presiding officer was. You are going to talk about the prosecutor. You are going to talk about the attorney or the advocate or whoever. You were just going to give a clear discussion, just to give a clear picture of the marker or the reader of what really took place in that particular case which you were listening to. You would talk about the cross-examinations, the witnesses, everything that happened during that observation or that visitation period of yours into the court. You would discuss everything there. But during that time, during the 2020 lockdown, everything was stopped. That section B, was cancelled up until today. We cannot visit the courts for that particular module because of the protocols, the rules and regulations, the restrictions, and everything of the coronavirus. So you can talk about how we were restricted from visiting the courts, being as audiences, how many cases were postponed, how serious cases were, how they took place on the media. By media, I am referring to those people who were using Microsoft Teams They were using Zoom. They were using all those kind of platforms to continue their cases, but only serious cases were attended to. The rest were postponed. So that's how the courts were affected during that time. So you can talk about those kind of things, do your research, and include, combine, mix up, make a salad with everything together and make sensible information out of everything, and talk about it under the courts. There are many things that I did not mention myself because I say that our video is almost 30 minutes now. You can also, okay, when we come to the correctional services, our prisons, you need to remember that the government, if I can put it that way, made an announcement that inmates had to be, okay, let me say this. Inmates had to, okay, prisons or correctional services were overcrowded, which is something that we all know. Those places are overcrowded. And also, the postponement of those cases of people who were in trial. People who are in trial are those people who are confined or who are in prison, but they did not have any bail, but they were not sentenced yet. Those people are in prison, but they're not sentenced. So it's called awaiting trial. Yeah, something like that. If I'm putting it in a wrong way, I'm sorry, but I just want you to understand what I'm trying to say and where I'm going with this. So when they postponed those cases, it meant that many people remained in those prisons, which caused overcrowding, and it never meant that people were not coming in. People who committed crimes came in, but they did not go out. So there was an inflow and not an outflow. So there was no balance in that particular situation. So those prisons or those sections of awaiting trial members or whoever, I don't know what they call them, were overcrowded in a way. Secondly, because of the overcrowding that we normally have, or that we already have in South African prisons, the government announced that some of the inmates who have served a lot of time and who were facing parole and who had, like, I don't know, I don't remember, I never really followed that thing. I never really paid much attention to it, so I don't know the rules and regulations, terms and conditions of that particular, I don't know what it is, but yeah. So approximately 14,000 inmates were released because the correctional services wanted to curb the spread or the transmission of the coronavirus, because you cannot control any virus, any contagious virus in a crowded area. So those inmates had to be reduced. But it was, I personally think that it was not fair on the victims. because you cannot maybe a person cannot be released on parole while I am not, as the victim, while I am not consulted or invited to the parole board meeting, whatever. I don't know what they call that thing, but it was a very hectic time for the country, so we could not move around freely and all that, so we could not have those meetings. So people were just being released. Happy for them, yes, but it was not fair on the victims, to be honest. But you can wrap it up by stating how you think and how you feel that was the correctional no, not the correctional services, was the did the correction what's wrong with me, did the criminal justice system, how did they respond to the to those COVID-19 regulations? Was it positively? Was it negatively? And all those rules and regulations, were they fruitful? Just state how you feel about everything. And you can also talk about the economy. By the economy, I am referring to, you know, that those prisoners, those offenders, those inmates, they rely on the government to be fed, toiletries, clothing, everything. They are kids. They are babies. They cannot do anything for themselves. They cannot fend for themselves. So they rely on the state. So the economy was very, very bad by that time. So things were just tough in our country, and things are becoming even worse today. But then again, as collab. So that's what you can mostly talk about. Add your own points. Make this thing very, very interesting. Just do your research if you feel like doing research, and you can just talk about everything that you can think of. So let us quickly jump to the second question. In Unit 1, we explain that law and justice form an intrinsic part of our daily lives. In order to explore these concepts, we have provided you with the contextual background to the most pertinent issues. We have you engaged with newspaper reports and have requested you to reflect on our own experiences and those of others. With this in mind, we now want you to read any of the daily newspapers available to you, so that you may develop a sense of the status of crime in our society and of the work of functionaries in the criminal justice system. Choose any one of the following topics and find an article on criminal cases on the internet or daily newspaper that is relevant to your selected topic, and compile a document based on a format below. The first topic can be intimate partner-based violence. Second topic, women and children abuse. Third topic, corruption. Fourth, racism and inequality. There is the format of how to use the resources. See, maybe you're going to use a newspaper. You're going to follow this format. I don't know if this is editable. Yeah, you're going to write newspapers, then you write the heading. No, it's not a heading. What's that? Lawyers of Shame, Pretoria News, page 1, Monday, February 2012. Prisoner shot during hospital escape, Sowetan. Which one is this one now? Page 2, Tuesday, August 28th. No, let's rather use this one because I don't understand the first one. Alright, you're going to write the heading. Prisoner shot during hospital escape. The name of the newspaper was SJD1501. Oh, the name of that newspaper is a Pretoria News, and the heading of the story is Lawyers of Shame. Okay, now I get it. Alright, then was on page 2 of the newspaper, and it was, the dates were Tuesday, August the 28th, the year was 2012. So on the first one, this one, okay, newspapers. Okay, you're going to say newspaper, not newspapers, because these are two examples. So you're going to say newspaper because you use one name, one newspaper. Lawyers of Shame, that is the heading of the story. The name of the newspaper that you used is Pretoria News, and the story was found on page 1, and it was Monday, February the 20th of the year 2012. So this is what is supposed to appear on the first, I don't know, yeah, at the top there of question 2. Then if you use an internet source, maybe you use News 24, IOL, what Witness. There are just many newspapers. You can even use the Listen. There are many things that you can. There are many newspapers that you can find on the internet. So this is the format. You're going to say internet source, then you write News 24, then you write the year. News 24 is the year. No, sorry. News 24 is the name of the newspaper. Then you're going to write the name. What am I saying now? You're going to write the year, which is 2019, and you're going to write the heading of the story. Here they use wife nabbed for murder after allegedly throwing mayonnaise bottle at husband. And you are going to write the URL here. Here is the, I can't, it will open, so I don't want to click it there. Here is the URL here, the HTTP stuff. You are going to copy the URL from the top there of your, I don't know, of where you enter the where you search the other search engine. That's where you're going to find the URL. Immediately after clicking onto the story, the URL will appear there. Then you're going to copy it, edit here. Then you write the date when you accessed the source. Then you write accessed on 10 October 2019. But you need to make sure that your article is not older than 6 months. Then you're going to use the below format here. As they mentioned there, this is an example. Then you're going to write the chosen article. Then you write the topic. Then you write a source with correct referencing. Maybe you can write the URL, since most of us are going to be using the internet. Or you can write the name of the newspaper, Daily Sun, SJD1501, Sunday Times, all that. Then you provide a brief summary in approximately 100 words of what is described in the report or the article. You give a brief summary. Tell us what really happened in that case. You give us the facts of the case. Yeah. Then you write, why did you find the report interesting? Why did you choose that report? You must write 50 words for 1 mark. That's the point. And then you 1.4, you motivate why you believe this story it relates to our criminal justice system. Second last, identify at least 2 key role players in the article. It must be identifiable from your summary. It means that if you mention these 2 people here, you must have mentioned them at the on 1.2 on your summary. If you want to talk about the police official who investigated this issue here, you must also appear on the summary. If you want to talk about the NPA, she must also appear on your summary, stuff like that. Or it is the judge or whoever presiding officer or whatever thing that you must also do that. So here you give their names, and you just write the name and their surname and the occupation. Then lastly, you answer if you think that the criminal justice functionaries served justice. Then you provide a brief reason to justify your view. So here you can choose from, let's check those topics there. Gender-based violence cases which are not older than 6 months. You can check women and children abuse. You can talk about corruption. You can talk about racism and inequality. So there are many cases that you can talk about. When it comes to corruption, the day before yesterday, I heard on the radio, they were talking about corruption. Then I tried to look at that case on the internet. It says Mpumalanga public works officials, business associates arrested for corruption, and that is News 24. Let me go there. I can't find that one because I found an interesting one, and it was reported on 1 June of 2022, so it's not older than 6 months because now we're on October, right? It says brothers and businessmen arrested for alleged COVID-19 PPE fraud in Mpumalanga. Then this was it's an internet source, you guys, and it's from the Sowetan Live. You can use this. Let me bookmark it. I want to read about it. You can use this, and also there are just many things. You can just write on Google corruption cases 2022. Then they're going to appear. Then you check the dates and everything. I can see there. We also have arrested KZN DJ, also accused of 70 million splurge in Mpumalanga for Mandela's memorial. This was reported on the 29th of August of 2022. So you can talk about this, and you can also talk about there are just many things that you can talk about, you guys. I can also see here it says 5 Mpumalanga administrators and a clerk arrested for 60 million vehicle licensing fraud. So this was reported on the 18th of July of 2022. There are just many things. You can also look at the intimate partner-based violence. Just write gender-based violence crimes in 2022. It was yesterday or the day before yesterday, where a vendor comedian, I don't know his real name, but they call him Bundu. He's a well-known comedian, but I'm just not really familiar with him, but I've seen him on many posts, but because of the language barrier, so I don't really follow him. It was reported that I just had this on the news. I never read about it. This one falls under intimate partner-based violence. It was reported that this guy he tortured his girlfriend, his then girlfriend. I think it was back in the year of 2020. I'm talking about this because the sentencing was held the day before yesterday, so you can write about it as well. It fits well into this as well. It's still fresh on you. But this crime was committed back in 2020, where he assaulted his girlfriend. He drugged her too much. He also bent her whole body with plastic. He did many horrible things to her, and to my surprise, he pleaded not guilty.